The computer is definitely the greatest invention in modern history, the fruit of human ingenuity. It consists of a large number of components, of which the CPU is the core part, which is equivalent to the human brain. The CPU is connected to the motherboard through 1,200 contacts. Inside the CPU are tens of billions of transistors. It's like a labyrinth that allows the computer to execute hundreds of millions of instructions per second. That's why the CPU is so powerful. It's the equivalent of a dozen light bulbs. This naturally generates a lot of heat, and at this point, a heat sink comes into play. The constantly circulating liquid takes the heat away through the water pipes and is finally discharged by the cooling fan. The other major power consumer is the graphics card. On one side of the card is the output port, in the center is the slot for connecting to the motherboard, and on the other side is the power connector. Removing the graphics card cooling fan, the internal structure is similar to that of the CPU. The integrated circuits are also at the nanometer level, but the graphics card has more stream processors, so it is more capable of floating point operations. While the CPU is better at complex calculations, the motherboard of a computer is equivalent to the human skeleton, on which all kinds of chips, slots, capacitors, etc. are installed. The memory on the motherboard is the bridge to the CPU. For example, this 16 gigabyte memory stick, it consists of 8 2-gigabyte memory particles. Taking apart the memory particles, there is an interconnect matrix inside and a ball grid array package at the bottom. The most important thing is this wafer. It's divided into 8 zones and 32 groups. Each group has 65,536 rows and 8,192 columns. There's even billions of memory cells inside, and this incredibly complex chip is actually made on a 30-centimeter wide silicon wafer. One wafer usually makes thousands of chips. Although memory is extremely fast, you still need a hard disk to store data. This SSD is a 128-layer stacked structure. Zooming in, it turns out that SSDs store data by storing different levels of electrical charge. There's also a mechanical hard drive, which has a disk as its storage medium. Actually, our data is saved on the computer in zeros and ones, and mechanical hard drives use magnetic pole grains to represent the zeros and ones. Each disk has more than 500,000 magnetic tracks. Each track is divided into sectors. The computer uses the magnetic heads to read the data inside the hard disk. It's hard to believe that the magnetic heads are only 15 nanometers away from the platters, and our computers are made up of many of these parts. Each one of them is a piece of technology we can't even begin to understand. We have to admire the intelligence of mankind.